In digestion, food is changed by the organs into a soluble form to be absorbed by the body. Food in the mouth is mixed with saliva. Saliva begins to dissolve the food as teeth grind and cut it. Food is forced back into the throat, pharynx, by the tongue. Food in the pharynx stimulates the swallowing reflex. The larynx is pulled upward to meet the epiglottis and seal off the trachea. Food goes from the pharynx to the esophagus. Food moves down the esophagus by peristalsis. The peristaltic wave reaches the esophageal sphincter, and food reaches the stomach. The unique muscular structure of the stomach breaks down food into small pieces called chyme. Chyme exits through the pyloric sphincter into the duodenum of the small intestine. The major portion of absorption and digestion occurs in the small intestine. The mucosa secrete enzymes that supplement the digestive enzymes of the pancreas and liver. This completes the chemical process of digestion. The walls are covered with villi, where nutrients absorption takes place. The structure of each villus contains a capillary and lacteal to pick up the digested nutrients. The nutrients are now transported by the blood to all cells of the body. The undigested food reaches the ileocecal valve and enters the large intestine or colon. The colon absorbs water, manufactures vitamins, produces mucus, and forms and expels feces. Mass peristalsis pushes out the feces into the rectum, which stimulates the defecation reflex. This is the digestive system and its process.
Our skin, also called the integument, is an elastic, durable covering protecting our body and is our largest organ. If the skin of an average-sized adult were spread out flat, it would cover an area of approximately 2 square meters and would weigh about 4.5 kilograms. The size and weight of a medium-sized rug, Skin tissue grows faster than any other organ tissue, and it's constantly renewing itself by growing new skin cells and removing old ones. This includes our hair, finger, and toenails, which are composed of the same type of cells as our skin, and along with our skin and glands, make up the integumentary system. The integumentary system consists of 2 components: the skin, called the cutaneous membrane, and accessory structures, which include hair, nails, sediferous or sweat glands, and sebaceous or oil glands. We will examine these components one at a time. The skin's functions include protecting the body from bacterial invasion and from drying out, regulating the body temperature, providing sensory reception, synthesizing vitamin D, and excreting waste products, and serving as a reservoir for blood and nutrients. The cutaneous membrane consists of an upper layer called the epidermis, and underlying or basement layer called the dermis, and connective tissue called the subcutaneous or hypocutaneous layer. The epidermis is made up of 5 layers called the strata: the stratum corneum, stratum lucidum, stratum granulosum, stratum spinosum, and the stratum basale. It is firmly attached to the underlying dermis by a membrane called the basement membrane.
Accessory structures belonging to the integumentary system include hair, sebaceous and sudoriferous glands, and nails. There are approximately 5 million hairs on our body. The fine, soft hair that covers most of our body is called vellus hair. The thicker, soft hair that covers our head, including eyebrows, beards, and mustaches, is called terminal hair. The only totally hairless areas on our bodies are our palms, soles, and lips. Hair grows out of a structure called a follicle. Follicles extend into the dermis and even the hypodermis, surrounded by a thin layer of epidermal cells. Stem cells divide at the bottom of the follicle, and as these cells become keratinized, they form a hair shaft inside the follicle. Above skin surface hair consists of dead keratinized cells. Only the root of the hair inside the follicle is alive. a sensory nerve fiber connected to the base of the hair follicle, enables us to feel the movement of a single hair. This contributes to our skin sensitive to touch and temperature. Each follicle also possesses a tiny muscle that can contract in response to emotions, such as fear or rage, or in response to cold, which pulls hair erect and causes what we call goosebumps on the surface of our skin. On average, 100,000 hairs grow on our heads at the rate of about 1.3 centimeters per month. These hairs generally live about 3 to 4 years, unless someone chooses to have it cut. An adult loses about 100 of these each day. Most of them grow back, except for men going bald. Many men, after the age of 40, find their hair receding on the top of their skulls, and some men become totally bald. This is caused by changes in the level of sex hormones in males, and it's called male pattern baldness.
Muscular system. Muscles are responsible for all types of body movement. They contract or shorten and are the mechanics of the body. 3 basic muscle types that are found in the human body are skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle, and smooth muscle. Characteristics of muscles. Muscle cells are elongated. Contractions of muscles are due to movements in microfilaments. All muscles share some terminology. Prefix myo refers to muscle, prefix mis also refers to muscle, and the prefix sarco refers to flesh. Smooth muscle characteristics. Smooth muscles do not have striations. They are spindle-bundled shaped cells with a single nucleus. They are involuntary, so you do not have conscious control over them. They are usually found in hollow organs such as the stomach or intestines. They are slow, sustained, and tireless. Cardiac muscles. Cardiac muscles have striations, usually a single-celled, but there are exceptions. Joined to another muscle cell at an intercalated disc. They are involuntary and found only in the heart. Steady pace. Functions of muscles. The functions of muscles are to produce movement, maintain posture, stabilize joints, and generate body heat. Muscles and body movement. Muscles are attached at 2 points. Origin, attachment to a movable bone, and insertion, attachment to an immovable bone. Disorders relating to the muscular system. A disorder popular with the muscular system is muscular dystrophy, an inherited disorder, muscle that enlarges due to increased fat and connective tissue, but fibers start to degenerate, causing weak muscles. And now for a more in-depth understanding of skeletal muscles, which we haven't really examined yet.
Skeletal muscle, also called striated muscle, because of its striped appearance under the microscope, is used to move the skeleton. Skeletal muscles are under direct control of the nervous system and can produce contractions ranging from a quick twitches to powerful sustained tension. Individual muscle cells, called muscle fibers, are among the largest cells in the human body, ranking from 10 to 100 micrometers in diameter. Each muscle fiber runs the entire length of the muscle, which may be as much as 35 centimeters to about 14 inches in the human body, thighs. Each muscle fiber in turn contains many individual contractile subunits, myofibrils, extending from one end of the fiber to the other. Each cylindrical myofibril is surrounded by sarcoplasmic reticulum, a complex of membranes forming a network of interconnected hollow tubes. The sarcoplasmic reticulum contains a fluid rich in calcium ions. Deep indentations of the muscle cell membrane, called transverse or T-tubules, extend down into the muscle fiber, passing very close to portions of the sarcoplasmic reticulum. This arrangement of T-tubules and sarcoplasmic reticulum is crucial, as we will see, to controlling muscle contraction. Myofibrils contain subunits called sarcomere, is made up of precise arrangements of actin and myosin filaments. Sarcomeres are attached end to end throughout the length of the myofibril, and their junction points are called Z-lines. Attached to the Z-lines are strands of actin and 2 accessory proteins that form the thin filaments. Suspended between the thin filaments are thick filaments. Composed of protein, myosin, the alternating and thick and thin filaments give myofibrillar their striped appearance. Small arms, called cross bridges, extend from the strands of myosin and contact the thin filaments. The actin protein of the thin filament is formed from a double chain of subunits resembling a twisted double strand of pearls. Each subunit as a blending site for a myosin crossbridge. In a relaxed muscle, however, these sites are covered by two accessory proteins which prevent the myosin crossbridges from attaching to the thin filaments. But when a muscle contracts, the accessory proteins on the thin filaments are moved aside so myosin crossbridges can attach to the binding sites on the actin subunits of the thin filaments.
The skeletal system includes all the bones of the body and the joints attached to each other. Our skeleton protects our internal organs, provides a framework for scaffolding that allows us to stand upright and move. They store minerals that our body needs to function properly and produce blood cells. Our muscles pulling this way or that way on our bones produce movement. And without the protection of our bones, even a simple bump on the head or chest could injure vital internal organs. Pound for pound, the bones of the skeletal system are stronger than steel. The skeletal system is made of 206 different bones, would come in 4 basic shapes: long bone, such as the femur; short bone, like the wrist and ankle bone; flat bones, such as those in the skull or scapula; and irregular bones, like the vertebrae. There are 2 types of bone tissue: compact bone, which is dense, smooth, and very strong, and cancellous bone, which is spongy and lightweight. Both types of bone tissue contain living cells which help make repairs if a bone is injured or broken. A typical long bone has a main shaft called the diaphysis, composed of compact bone. And 2 ends, called the ephysis, are composed of cancellous bone. The main shaft is covered with a membrane of living cells called periosteum, to which muscles and tendons attach themselves. Inside the main shaft is called the medullary cavity, which contains bone marrow. Bone marrow stores fat, produces blood cells, and plays an important part in the body's immune system. The skeletal system is divided into 2 divisions. The axial skeletal, which consists of bones that form the longitudinal axis of the body, and the appendicular skeleton, where you can see the bones that are appended to the axial skeleton. The axial skeleton includes bones comprising of the skull, vertebral column, and thorax. Appendicular skeleton consists of the bones of the shoulders, upper extremities, hips, and lower extremities. The bones are the upper extremities, or arms, are connected to the axial skeleton via the shoulder girdle. This consists of the scapula or shoulder blade and the clavicle or collarbone. The arm itself is composed of the humerus or upper arm and the radius and ulna of the forearm, plus the wrist and hand, which consists of 27 separate bones. Because of this large number of small bones in our hands are capable of more movement than any other part of the body. The lower extremities or legs are connected to the axial skeleton via the pelvic girdle, which is formed by 2 hip bones. It protects the bladder's reproductive organ, lower colon, and rectum. In the male, the pubic arch of the pelvis is less than 90 degrees wide, while in the female, it is greater than 90 degrees. This is the difference in width that is necessary for the female pelvis to accommodate childbirth. The longest, heaviest, and strongest bone in the body is the femur, commonly called the thigh bone. At one end, it is connected to the pelvis, and at the other end, to the lower leg. which is made up of the tibia, or shin bone, and fibula. The tibia bears all of our body's weight. The fibula bears no weight at all. The patella or kneecap is a large bone between the femur and fibula and protects the knee joint and tendons that form the knee, the ankle, and the foot, which must carry all of our body weight as we stand, walk, or run, and the 26 bones and 23 joints that make up our ankle and foot enable it to just do that. The entire skeletal system of an average adult weighs less than 10 kilograms. If you're tempted to replace this with steel skeleton that was just that strong, it would weigh 400 kilograms and still would not have the resilience of bone or the ability to repair itself. Harder than reinforced concrete and lighter than stainless steel, able to repair itself, bone is a near-perfect material that provides framework for the human body. The respiratory system moves air through the nose, pharynx, larynx, trachea, and bronchus to the alveoli, where the gas exchange between oxygen and carbon dioxide occurs. Nares are the opening to the nose. The nasal cavity is lined with cilia, mucous membranes, and blood capillaries. The air is filtered by cilia, moistened by mucous membranes, and warmed by the blood. Air moves into the pharynx, or throat, a common passageway for food and air. Air continues on the larynx to the epiglottis, a flap of tissue in front of the larynx, closes off the larynx when swallowing to prevent food from entering. Larynx, or voice box, contains the vocal folds. The trachea, or windpipe, connects to the larynx to the bronchial tree. The cartilage rings of the trachea prevent the trachea from collapsing. Lungs are spongy tissue with the alveoli and blood capillaries. Our chest movement occurs because of the expansion and contraction of the lungs. The bronchi, carrying the air, subdivide into smaller branches called bronchioles. At the end of each bronchiole are the alveolar sacs. The alveolar sacs are surrounded by blood capillaries and contain millions of single-layer alveolar cells, where the gas exchange takes place. Oxygenated air goes from the nose to the pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchus, and alveoli. By the process of diffusion, oxygen in the air moves from the alveoli to the capillaries. Carbon dioxide moves from the capillaries to the alveoli and is exhaled. This process is called respiration.
The reproductive system, male. The male reproductive system produces, maintains, and transports sperm, the male reproductive cells, and protective fluid, semen. It also discharges sperm within the female reproductive tract during sex. The entire male reproductive system is dependent on hormones, chemicals that regulate the activity of many different types of cells or organs. It is responsible for producing and secreting the male sex hormones that maintain the system. Unlike the female reproductive system, most of the male reproductive system is located on the outside of the body. These external features include the penis, the male organ used in sexual intercourse. It has three parts: the root, which attaches to the wall of the abdomen, the body, or shaft, and the glans, which is the cone-shaped part at the end of the penis. The glans, also called the head of the penis, is covered with a loose layer of skin called foreskin. This skin is sometimes removed in a procedure called circumcision. The scrotum. This is the loose pouch-like sac of skin that hangs behind and below the penis. It contains the testicles, also called testes, as well as many nerves and blood vessels. And testicles. These are oval organs about the size of large olives that lie in the scrotum, secured at either end by a structure called the spermatic cord. They are responsible for creating testosterone, the main male sex hormone, and sperm. The internal organs include the epididymis, a long coiled tube that rests on the back side of each testicle. It transports and stores sperm cells that are produced in the testes. The vas deferens, a long muscular tube that travels from the epididymis into the pelvic cavity. It transports mature sperm to the urethra. Ejaculatory ducts. These are formed by the fusion of the vas deferens and the seminal vesicles. The ejaculatory ducts empty into the urethra. The urethra, the tube that carries urine from the bladder to the outside of the body. In males, it has the additional function of ejaculating semen when the male reaches orgasm. Seminal-vesicles, sac-like pouches that attach to the vas deferens near the base of the bladder. The seminal-vesicles produce a sugar-rich fluid, fructose, that provides sperm with a source of energy and helps them move. Prostate glands, a walnut-sized structure that is located below the urinary bladder in front of the rectum. The prostate gland contributes additional fluid used when ejaculating. And bulbourethral glands, also called Cowper's glands. These are pea-sized structures located on the sides of the urethra just below the prostate gland. These glands produce a clear, slippery fluid that empties directly into the urethra. These internal organs are often referred to as accessory organs. As I mentioned earlier, the entire male reproductive system is dependent on hormones. The two primary hormones depended on are stimulating hormones. Luteinizing hormone, used to stimulate the creation of testosterone, which plays a huge role in sperm production, and testosterone, a steroid hormone that plays a key role in the development of male reproductive tissue. It also promotes secondary sexual characteristics such as increased muscle and bone mass and the growth of body hair.
The male and female reproductive systems are designed to create life. The male genital system begins with the testes, where sperm are produced. The epididymis is a system of convoluted small tubes leading from each testes and emptying into the vas deferens after being joined by the duct of seminal vesicles. The vas becomes the ejaculatory duct, which enters the prostate, where it joins with the urethra to convey the sperm and semen to the penis. Deep inside the woman in her ovaries, one egg develops each month. From a man's testes through his penis, millions of sperms enter the woman's vagina. Here they begin their travel toward the egg, but only one sperm can enter the egg, and when one does, fertilization occurs. Genetic material from the male and from the female combine to create the first cell of an offspring. The fertilized egg migrates to the uterus, where it is developed into a fully formed fetus over a period of about 9 months. Then,